Hi guys, Scott Barry here. In this video, we're going to go over after we've installed the driver and we're setting up in our DAW. So in this case, I'm using Logic, but it's going to be the same in pretty much any other DAW, whether if it's Ableton or Studio One or Cakewalk or anything like that. You're going to have the same setups or the same options. So the first thing what we want to do is we want to get into our computer. We're going to go into our preferences of our DAW and select audio. Once we go to audio, we want to make sure that we have the Jupiter-X as the input and the output. Now in a Mac, you can have the output go somewhere else, another system or another interface, but in most cases it's going to be just the same thing, and we'll just have our speakers hooked up to our keyboard. So once that's set up, you're pretty much good to go. And what I've done here real quick is I just set up 6 tracks and a MIDI track, but I'm going to go back here and label them so that you can understand what each is. Okay, so now that we've got everything labeled, we'll go through it. So basically track 1 is inputs 1 and 2, and you can actually see that down here in the inspector. It's a stereo track, so this is going to capture everything. This is where everything winds up, effects and all parts. So that's 1 and 2. So part 1 is actually the inputs 3 and 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go through each part individually so you can see where it's coming in. And I'll just hit this for right now. You can see how the top track is also lighting up. Well, that's because it's catching everything. So I'm going to mute that for right now. But we can go through this. So this is part 1. You can see that on that track. If I go over to, if I go over to part 2, now you see that inputs 5 and 6 are part 2. If I go to part 3, 7 and 8 inputs, part 4. And the last one, drums. You can see how everything's organized and set up in the computer this way. So at this point, if I just armed the stereo track, which is inputs 1 and 2, I'll capture everything and I'm not independently tracking anything. But if I have the other tracks set up, so 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12, I can track all the parts individually. All right, for this example, we're going to go ahead and just record all parts. Like I said earlier, I've got all the parts set up to be on because I'm just going to play them all and then we're going to go back and isolate them. Alright, so let's go back and isolate all the parts. So for the stereo mix, it's just going to be everything. Alright, so if we get out of that and we go in and we solo this one. So that's part 1. Part 3. This will be our bell sound. And our just our drums. And you notice we've got all of our MIDI captured as well. So if we want to go back and tweak anything and reprint, we can definitely do that. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the MIDI track is that if we want it to play back, we need to make sure that we're sending it back to the Jupiter-X. This was off right now so I don't get a loop, but I would set that to Jupiter-X and then be able to just play the MIDI track back. So I hope that helped. It's a little bit more going on here, but it should make it a lot easier for you in the recording features that you run into with Jupiter-Xm. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care. We'll catch you on the next one.